Have you ever noticed how the entire world seems to be watching Israel with unusual intensity right now? Every headline, every political decision, and every conflict in that region feels heavier than ordinary news, as if what happens there is connected to something much larger than borders and governments. What if these events are not random at all, but part of a story that began centuries ago, tied to ancient history, spiritual forces, and divine guidance? Think about Jerusalem for a moment. A city that has stood at the meeting point of empires, religions, and civilizations. A city that has been conquered, destroyed, and rebuilt again and again. Its streets have witnessed the rise and fall of kingdoms, and its history reflects a constant struggle between faith and worldly power. Now imagine movements and armies rising from distant lands, regions mentioned in sacred narrations hundreds of years ago, caravans traveling through narrow valleys, forces advancing across deserts and mountains, and black banners appearing where prophecy once pointed. These are not just images from the past. They are symbols of a plan that goes beyond politics, beyond nations, and beyond human ambition. And there is something even more striking. Look at today's modern world. The United Nations, global trade, instant communication, and powerful technology connecting every corner of the earth. What if all of this is actually bringing ancient prophecies closer to reality? What if the conflicts we witness today represent a clash between two opposing paths, one guided by faith and divine principles, and the other driven by materialism, arrogance, and the rejection of moral responsibility? In this video, we will uncover several deep realities, the long and turbulent history of Jerusalem and its repeated struggles, the prophecies related to Khorasan, Sind, and the armies mentioned in sacred narrations, the modern global system, globalization, and the failure of international institutions to deliver true justice. The ongoing battle between faith and material power, and why spiritual awakening is feared by dominant forces. And finally, the bold predictions of Dr Israr Ahmed about Israel in 2026. Predictions that may completely change how we understand today's events. By the end of this video, you will not only learn about these developments, but you will begin to see the hidden pattern behind every headline, every conflict, and every global decision. So stay with me, because what you are about to hear may challenge your thinking and transform the way you look at the world. Have you ever reflected on why one single city, Jerusalem, holds such deep importance, not only for one nation or one religion, but for billions of people across the world? Why does every major faith speak of it? Why did every powerful empire fight to control it? And why has every era left its mark upon it? Jerusalem is far more than a point on a map. It is a living record of human civilization, a place where cultures collided, spiritual destinies were shaped, and prophecy unfolded through real events. Every stone and street carries memories of thousands of years. And by understanding this past, we begin to understand the powerful forces influencing our present. Let us journey back through the centuries and follow the path of this extraordinary city. Long before modern states existed, in the time of prophets and kings, Jerusalem became the home of the great temple of Prophet Suleiman. Peace and blessings be upon him, a sacred center of worship, wisdom, and divine guidance. During the era of Prophet Suleiman, peace and blessings be upon him, the city was not only a political capital, but also a spiritual light for those who believed in one God. Yet Jerusalem's story has never been peaceful for long. In the years 60-70 of the Common Era, a mighty army from the west, led by the Roman general Titus, surrounded the city. After a fierce siege, the Second Temple was destroyed, and the Jewish population was scattered across distant lands. For more than a century, Jerusalem remained largely in ruins, its sacred places broken and its people dispersed, waiting for renewal. Later, the Roman Emperor Hadrian rebuilt the city and gave it a new name, Aelia Capitolina. By the time Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, was born, Jerusalem was known by this Roman identity. Even then, it remained a crossroads of cultures and beliefs, a place where traces of divine messages could still be felt beneath layers of foreign rule. With the rise of Islam, Jerusalem entered a new chapter. Under the early caliphates, the city experienced revival and relative peace. It became a center of worship, learning, and coexistence among different communities. But once again, the stability did not last. In 1099 of the Common Era, during the First Crusade, European Christian armies stormed Jerusalem with extreme violence. Thousands of Muslims and Jews were killed, and the city was taken by force. For nearly 90 years, Jerusalem remained under Crusader control, separated from its earlier spiritual harmony and subjected to harsh rule. Then appeared one of the most respected figures in Islamic history, Salahuddin Ayyubi. In 1187 of the Common Era, after years of struggle and sacrifice, he liberated Jerusalem. This victory was not seen only as a military success, but as the return of dignity, faith, and justice. For the first time in almost a century, the city was restored to those who honored its sacred legacy. But Jerusalem's trials continued into modern times. In 1967 of the Common Era, during the Arab-Israeli War, the city once again fell under occupation. This single event reshaped the political landscape of the region and ignited tensions that still influence world affairs today. Jerusalem has never been just a city of walls and buildings. It is a symbol of faith and identity, a prize sought by empires, and a stage upon which political, spiritual, and prophetic struggles meet. To truly understand today's conflicts, the disputes over control, and the powerful emotions tied to this land, we must look back at the long centuries of struggle it has endured. The kingdoms that rose and fell, the believers who prayed within its walls, and the countless lives shaped by its destiny. This is why Jerusalem is more than geography. It is a story of endurance, a reflection of human faith, and a reminder that real peace is not created by politics alone. True peace is born from spiritual harmony, something the world continues to search for, even today. Have you ever considered that prophecy and geography are not separate paths, but threads woven together in the fabric of history? The lands mentioned by the prophets, the regions described in ancient narrations, and the routes spoken of in sacred narrations were never random names. They point toward a pattern, a journey foretold long ago, connecting the eastern lands with the heart of the Arabian world. One of the most powerful prophecies appears in the narrations of Sunan ibn Majah, where Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, spoke of a region known as Khorasan. This was not a single town or a narrow strip of land. Historically, it was a vast and influential territory that included parts of present-day Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. It stood as a meeting point of civilizations, trade routes, and cultures, a bridge between East and West. According to these narrations, from this very region, a great force will rise, not a scattered group, but an organized movement with purpose and direction. These forces are destined to support the establishment of Imam Mahdi in the Arabian Peninsula, a leadership based on justice, spiritual revival, and divine guidance. But one may ask, which exact land was meant by Khorasan? It was not defined by modern borders. It referred to a historical and cultural zone that linked Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and the wider lands of Hindustan. These regions were deeply connected with the Arab world through trade, travel, and shared historical experience. Before this movement emerges, the sacred narrations indicate that a structured system, a nizam, will first be established in this eastern region. This suggests that faith, organization, and discipline will take root there before armies begin their journey. From this foundation, believers will rise with unity and purpose. These forces are described as carrying black flags, a symbol of determination, identity, and unwavering resolve. They are not ordinary banners. In prophetic language, black flags represent a movement guided by destiny. Nothing will be able to stop them. No power, no barrier, no army. They will move forward across deserts, through open plains, along winding valleys, and over rugged mountains. Their march will continue until they reach the sacred city of Jerusalem, where their flags will be raised as a sign of fulfillment and return. Yet this story does not begin or end with Khorasan alone. To the south lies Wadi Sindh, the ancient valley shaped by the mighty Indus River and its countless tributaries. This is not merely a flow of water through land, it is a corridor of life, movement, and connection. From the northern highlands, regions such as Kashmir, Gilgit, and the surrounding mountains, rivers descend toward the south. Small streams merge into larger rivers, crossing plains and deserts to form a vast network of water and civilization. This valley, both fertile and often overlooked, has been home to great cultures throughout history. Imagine this region as the branches of a grand tree. Each tributary, the Kabul River, Gomal, Tochi, and others, strengthens the whole. These waters nourish life and create pathways for travel and communication. From these distant valleys and hidden routes, not only caravans, but also armies of purpose will emerge. This is not simply a discussion of land, rivers, or borders. It is a matter of destiny, where faith, terrain, and divine promise converge. When the sacred narrations speak of these regions, they remind us that physical landscapes carry spiritual meaning. History and divine will intersect in human experience. And this is why the story of Khorasan and Sindh matters. It teaches us that geography is not only physical space, it holds direction and purpose. The rivers and valleys of these lands are not just features on a map. They are signs of a greater plan, guiding the course of history and fulfilling promises spoken centuries ago. Allama Iqbal once expressed these powerful words in poetry: "A breeze is blowing toward my Arab homeland, from where my spiritual roots originate." Though written in poetic form, this line carries a deep meaning. It points toward a movement of spiritual revival flowing back toward the Arab world. Iqbal was known for questioning inherited ideas with his intellect, yet his poetry often rose from a much deeper place, his heart. In moments of spiritual reflection and inspiration, he spoke about the arrival of Hazrat Mahdi and the rebirth of faith-based civilizations. Ashfaq Ahmed once described Iqbal as having two distinct sides: the rational and analytical Iqbal of the daytime and the spiritually inspired Iqbal of the night. During one gathering in Lahore, Dr. Ewing observed that Iqbal experienced moments of what he called verbal inspiration, when words seemed to descend upon him as if guided by a higher source. Iqbal himself spoke with humility about these moments, saying, "The poetry that comes to me is shaped into words. I do not have the authority to alter what is given to me." This statement reflects a belief that true spiritual insight is not merely created by human effort, but inspired from beyond. Such inspiration can guide individuals, awaken nations, and even shape movements that influence the course of history, just as prophecy describes. Through Iqbal's words, we see how spiritual awareness and inner awakening can prepare the ground for larger changes in society. His poetry was not just literature, it was a call toward faith, dignity, and revival. These insights remind us that before armies rise and before nations transform, hearts and minds must awaken first. Spiritual inspiration becomes the seed from which great movements grow. In this way, Allama Iqbal's message connects deeply with the idea of prophecy, that divine guidance does not always appear suddenly in the form of events, but often begins quietly within the soul of a thinker, a poet, or a believer who dares to see beyond the surface of the world. Have you noticed how the world feels smaller than ever, yet somehow more divided? Technology, trade, and instant communication connect us. But at the same time, conflicts, injustice, and inequality seem to grow everywhere. This is not by chance. It fits into a much larger global pattern, one that Dr. Israr Ahmed studied closely, long before most analysts even saw it coming. Today, the world has truly become a global village. What once seemed thousands of miles away, conflicts, disasters, political decisions, can now appear on our screens in real time. A war in the Middle East can turn into a European crisis overnight. A natural disaster in Asia can ripple through global economies. Travel, trade, media, and technology link us as never before. Borders may exist on maps, but in reality, our lives are tightly intertwined. But here is the question Dr. Israr Ahmed asked: does this connection automatically bring peace? The answer is profound: no. Just being connected does not automatically bring harmony. Countries can trade, send messages, or sign treaties, but real unity only happens when they share fundamental values: justice, honesty, morality, and accountability. Without these, even the closest nations remain divided at heart. Modern infrastructure cannot replace moral and spiritual grounding. That is why lasting peace remains elusive, even in an era of unprecedented global integration. History teaches us many lessons. After the devastation of the First World War, the League of Nations was formed with hope, a forum where countries could settle disputes collectively and prevent future wars. But selfish interests, greed, and lust for power undermined its mission. It collapsed. A cautionary reminder that good intentions alone are not enough without moral responsibility. Then came the United Nations, with even higher aspirations. Nations were supposed to resolve conflicts through dialogue, diplomacy, and international law. Yet here too, reality fell short. Long-standing crises, like Kashmir, Palestine, and Israel, often remain unresolved. Powerful countries use vetoes, political maneuvering, or selective enforcement to protect their interests. In such a system, justice becomes conditional and morality optional. Dr. Israr Ahmed highlighted a vital truth. True peace cannot come from institutions alone. Human systems, no matter how advanced, fail if people lose their connection to God and moral principles. Leaders driven purely by self-interest, nations motivated by greed, and societies indifferent to divine guidance cannot uphold justice. This lesson runs deep in Islamic thought. Lasting fairness requires morally accountable leaders and citizens. He also warned about globalization without spiritual balance. Many celebrate our interconnected world as progress, yet materialistic systems often exploit this connection to concentrate power, widen inequality, and sideline justice. Banks, multinational corporations, and political alliances driven by self-interest often dominate without moral restraint. And the more the world connects, the clearer these inequalities become. Yet, he also saw hidden opportunities. This same interconnectedness can expose global problems, forcing nations, communities, and individuals to confront them, not just politically, but spiritually and morally. In Dr. Israr Ahmed's analysis, conflicts like the ongoing struggle in Palestine and Israel are not merely political. They reveal a deeper clash of worldviews: materialism versus spiritual guidance, self-interest versus divine justice, and temporary control versus lasting moral order. Globalization keeps advancing. Trade, travel, media, and communication tie the world closer than ever. Yet, as Dr. Israr Ahmed warned, connection alone is not enough. Without moral and spiritual principles at its core, a global order can turn into a web of exploitation, injustice, and arrogance. What the world truly needs is a system rooted in justice, truth, morality, and accountability to God. Only then can peace be real, lasting, and universal, not imposed by force, but grounded in the moral and spiritual awareness of humanity. Dr. Israr Ahmed's vision is a call to look beyond borders, politics, and mere global links. True stability and justice are inseparable from faith and moral responsibility. And without these, even the most advanced global village will remain divided at heart. Have you ever looked at the modern world and wondered, why does humanity seem so advanced, yet so lost? Why do we witness incredible technological achievements, scientific breakthroughs, and economic growth, and yet feel a void that progress alone cannot fill? Beneath the surface of politics, commerce, and global innovation, there is a deeper, far-reaching struggle, a battle that is moral, spiritual, and prophetic at its very core. This struggle is the confrontation between faith and materialism. On one side stands a life guided by belief in God, moral purpose, and spiritual principles. On the other side is a world obsessed with power, wealth, domination, and self-interest. Materialism in its rawest and most extreme form. One of the greatest thinkers and visionaries of the modern era, Allama Iqbal, repeatedly warned humanity about this very conflict. He observed that modern civilization, in its relentless pursuit of technology, innovation, and worldly success, had pushed spirituality to the margins of life. Material achievement became the ultimate goal, and the guidance of the Creator was often ignored or forgotten. People began to chase influence, power, and wealth, and in doing so, lost sight of higher moral and spiritual responsibilities. Iqbal described this battle in vivid symbolic terms. On one side is faith in God and spiritual revival, a community committed to justice, morality, and divine purpose. On the other side is Iblis, the embodiment of arrogance, materialism, and rebellion against God's guidance. This is not abstract poetry or metaphor. It is a real cosmic struggle that manifests in human history, societal conflicts, and global events. To understand this more clearly, consider the collapse of the Soviet Union. One of the world's most powerful geopolitical and ideological forces suddenly disappeared. But instead of creating lasting peace, new structures of power and influence emerged immediately. NATO, originally formed as a military alliance to counter a specific threat, continued expanding. When questioned about what new threats justified further expansion, many leaders pointed to Muslim fundamentalism. This labeling reveals a profound truth. The greatest perceived threat to materialistic powers is not military force, not armies or nuclear weapons, but spiritual revival. When communities reconnect with faith, moral accountability, and a purpose higher than material wealth, they cannot be fully controlled by worldly empires, economic dominance, or political manipulation. No power on earth can dominate a spiritually awakened society, and that is why materialistic systems perceive such revival as their most dangerous challenge. On one side is faith in God and spiritual revival, a community committed to justice, morality, and divine purpose. On the other side is Iblis, the embodiment of arrogance, materialism, and rebellion against God's guidance. This is not abstract poetry or metaphor. It is a real cosmic struggle that manifests in human history, societal conflicts, and global events. To understand this more clearly, consider the collapse of the Soviet Union. One of the world's most powerful geopolitical and ideological forces suddenly disappeared. But instead of creating lasting peace, new structures of power and influence emerged immediately. NATO, originally formed as a military alliance to counter a specific threat, continued expanding. When questioned about what new threats justified further expansion, many leaders pointed to Muslim fundamentalism. This labeling reveals a profound truth. The greatest perceived threat to materialistic powers is not military force, not armies or nuclear weapons, but spiritual revival. When communities reconnect with faith, moral accountability, and a purpose higher than material wealth, they cannot be fully controlled by worldly empires, economic dominance, or political manipulation. No power on earth can dominate a spiritually awakened society, and that is why materialistic systems perceive such revival as their most dangerous challenge. This struggle is not confined to theory or symbolism. It plays out very clearly in today's geopolitical arena. On one side, there are ambitions for regional dominance, territorial expansion, and control over strategic resources. One notable example is the concept of Greater Israel, envisioning a Middle East reshaped according to the political, military, and economic interests of powerful nations. On the other side lies a faith-based vision grounded in divine guidance, emphasizing justice, morality, spiritual unity, and accountability to God above all else. This is not merely a battle over land, wealth, or resources. It is a clash of entire worldviews. One worldview centers life around material strength, dominance, and self-interest. The other centers life around faith, moral responsibility, and higher purpose. Dr Israr Ahmed emphasized this distinction repeatedly in his teachings and prophetic predictions. According to him, the wars, alliances, power struggles, and political maneuvers we witness today are not random events. They are manifestations of this deeper, ongoing confrontation between faith-based civilization and materialistic power structures. This struggle is global. It extends far beyond Israel or the Middle East. It is, in essence, a battle for the soul of humanity itself, where the true measure of victory is not which armies or economies dominate, but which worldview will guide the future of nations, societies, and human consciousness. The stakes are immense. Victory is not measured by borders, treaties, or temporary agreements, but by the values that shape human civilization, faith and moral accountability, or arrogance and materialism. This is the choice facing the world today. And as Dr. Israr Ahmed repeatedly taught, understanding this truth is essential. To comprehend the events unfolding in Israel, the Middle East, and across the globe, one must recognize that the visible struggles are only a surface reflection of a profound spiritual confrontation. The real question is not only who controls land or power, but which principles, faith and divine guidance, or materialism and arrogance, will ultimately determine the future of humanity. Have you ever paused and wondered why the same cities, the same conflicts, and the same struggles seem to repeat throughout history? Why do Jerusalem, Israel, and the surrounding regions continue to capture global attention century after century? This is not a coincidence, nor merely a matter of politics or geography. The answer lies in a deeper reality, the connection between history, prophecy, and current events. These regions are not just pieces of land or political battlegrounds. They are spiritual and prophetic markers, guiding humanity toward understanding larger truths about civilization, morality, and the divine guidance of God. Every war, every uprising, every shift in power carries a hidden message, a pattern foretold long before modern maps or international laws existed. Consider the lessons history has offered us, from the rise and fall of empires to the struggles between materialistic powers and faith-based communities. One truth emerges clearly. Lasting justice cannot come from human systems alone. Military might, economic influence, or political maneuvering may secure temporary victories, but they cannot create enduring fairness. Only faith, spiritual awareness, and divine guidance can shape a global order that is truly just and balanced. Dr. Israr Ahmed emphasized this repeatedly. According to his analysis, societies or nations that ignore moral and spiritual principles, that rely solely on power, wealth, or technology, are destined to face recurring cycles of instability, conflict, and failure. History is full of such examples. Conversely, communities grounded in faith, moral responsibility, and spiritual consciousness can withstand the greatest challenges, guide the course of history, and exert influence that transcends borders. What does this mean for today? Every event in Jerusalem, every political shift in Israel, and every regional struggle is not random. They are lessons for humanity, they are warnings and opportunities. They remind us that our choices, our awareness, and our adherence to divine guidance have profound consequences, far beyond what we see on the surface. The key takeaway is simple, yet powerful. Events are not accidents. They carry meaning and purpose. Faith and moral responsibility are indispensable. Without them, even the most advanced societies can fail. Divine guidance shapes lasting peace. It is the foundation upon which justice, balance, and true stability can be built. When we understand this, we realize that lasting global peace is not about treaties, negotiations, or temporary agreements alone. True peace emerges when societies anchor themselves in spiritual values, accountability to God, and moral principles. Only then can a just and balanced global order exist, a world where peace is not fleeting, but a permanent reality woven into the very fabric of human civilization. In essence, Jerusalem and Israel serve as mirrors, reflecting the struggles, choices, and values of humanity. They remind us that faith and justice are not optional. They are the pillars upon which the future of nations, communities, and the world itself depends. And as Dr. Israr Ahmed repeatedly warned, ignoring these lessons is a risk humanity cannot afford. Before we dive even deeper into the hidden truths and prophetic insights about Jerusalem, Israel, and the future of the world, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon. Every new video uncovers knowledge that most people never get to see, insights that can completely change how you understand history, current events, and what is coming next. If this video is opening your eyes to the connections between prophecy, faith, and global events, give it a like and share it with your family and friends. Do not let them miss the lessons hidden in the world around us. Lessons that many overlook, but that could shape the future of nations and even the course of history itself. Here is the truth. The world is changing faster than ever before. Wars, politics, alliances, and decisions are being made right now that will define the fate of Israel, the Middle East, and even global stability. And the knowledge you gain from this channel could help you see these events from a perspective most people will never understand. So do not wait. Subscribe, hit the bell, and stay with us, because the next revelations will dive even deeper into the mysteries of prophecy, faith, and the global struggle for justice. Missing them means staying in the dark while the world moves forward, while history unfolds in ways most people cannot predict. Trust me, every insight matters. Every piece of knowledge here could change how you view the unfolding events of our time and prepare you for what is coming next. Do not just watch, engage, reflect, and be ready. Remember, this is not just about videos or information. It is about understanding the forces shaping the world, seeing the truth before it becomes obvious, and being aware of how faith, prophecy, and history intersect in ways that will impact all of us. Be part of this journey. Subscribe, stay informed, and open your eyes to the bigger picture.